Hi, it's Dave. Today I'm joined by Sandy Munro, a well-known auto expert and design consultant. I'll link to his YouTube channel and website in the video description. I'm excited to dive into a whole host of topics regarding Tesla, the auto industry, and the future of transport. I want to welcome Sandy Munro on the show. Welcome, Sandy.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much, Dave. Yeah, good to be here.
Yeah,
Thank you.
awesome. Super excited. First, I wanted to talk about the whole landscape of auto, Tesla, but also the future of where everything's going. But first, I wanted to start out with your recent meeting and interview with Elon Musk you did a few months ago. What stuck out was kind of like, you were able to sit in with meetings with Elon Musk. I'm curious, what kind of meetings were these? Can you share any more details on kind of what happened?
Yeah, there is really no restriction. I haven't gotten any restrictions from Elon at all. So the first part of the meetings we're talking about, we had a half an hour together, basically, just the two of us. And we talked about what we perceived to be the direction of the market and how quickly things were going to change. And in essence, talking about the trip. So we had gone from Detroit to Los Angeles to San Diego, back to LA, then to Fremont, and then up to Oregon. And that's when I was asked to come to, because we were going to do cold weather, but when we got to Oregon, we got the invitation to go and talk down in Brownsville. And so we just drove straight down. Anyway, we talked about that a little bit, what kind of problems we had and things like that. And we didn't really have any problems. And then we talked about, who the contenders in the future might be. Just in general, talking about things. And then we spent like 5 minutes talking about the fact that we don't use a lot of fancy cameras and whatnot. We just use we have iPhones. I mean, this is the phone that everything was recorded on. I'm not an Apple salesperson, but I must say it was kind of interesting for that. So then we did the interview, which you saw. Only about 3 minutes were cut out, and that was basically when I went on a tirade about the press. And it was mostly about a nasty picture that they used for, what's her name? Barr. The lady in charge of General Motors, I've forgotten her name. Anyway, I mean, that was just wrong. I thought that was crap. And so anyway, we cut that part out. And then after we were done, Elon asked if we wanted to hang around to review a rocket engine, because he obviously knows a lot about what I've been involved with. And so he said, I heard you worked on rocket engines in the past. Would you like to hang around and talk about the engine that, one of the propulsion engines? And so before that happened, we talked about, because we had toured the facility, and I got a chance to see all of the different rockets in different stages, the lift mechanism, not just the rocket. And then afterward, we talked about the rockets. So we were there for 2.5 hours listening to what we would call a design review. And at the end of the day, I had a couple of suggestions. I mentioned them to him as we were leaving, but that was at 10:30 at night. It got we had just driven whatever 1,000, 1,200, whatever miles, 200, a long time anyway. And so we broke it off there, and he said thanks, see you around, and that was pretty much it. So that was a quick review, I guess.
Got it. Sunny Chu from Twitter has asked how many people were in that design review meeting, and how did they resolve differences of opinions to get to a consensus? Or was the design meeting kind of more focused on Elon getting his input, or how was kind of like the meeting?
No, the meeting was it was like a typical design review. The only difference is that's the first time I've ever had a CEO sitting in a design review. In fact, I can't remember even a VP sitting through a design review. And in essence, what you're doing is you're saying, well, we have this issue or they have that issue. And what could we do to resolve it? And then there was maybe 10 or 12 people that were on that meeting. And plus 1, 2, 3, 4, there was another 4 or 5 in the actual room. So it was a Teams meeting, I think. And so there was about 10 or 12 out there, and then 4 or 5 more in-house, and then it was myself and Corey. And for the most part, I really felt awkward making suggestions, but at the end, I mean, this was a very honest and open discussion. Elon actually made a suggestion, which was, for the most part, shot down by one of the people saying, you know, I just remember, come on, Elon, that won't work. And Elon said, well, give me the math, and he did, and then he said, oh, I guess not, and that was the end of it. So this was like a design review I'd have with other engineers. It's very much like the ideation sessions that we'd have at Munro, trying to figure out how to get around a problem with a lot of people that have very diverse backgrounds. And
yeah, I mean, it's fascinating because, you know, in the past, you know, people have called Elon a businessman or investor or entrepreneur, but he seems to identify with engineer the most. He's an
engineer. I'll tell you, all through the history of the United States, people have always figured that even though this guy is for instance, the founding fathers, most of them were farmers or they were soldiers. But if you read now, they were lawyers. That's not true. It's not true, but it's what happens. Things evolve. So with him, he's an engineer. That's a fact. When he started talking, he said, well, wait a minute, and he went into a dissertation about propulsion or whatever and started writing down the formulas and whatnot. I don't know of any businessman that can do formulas like that. And lightning speed and right off the top of his head. He's an engineer. He's an engineer's engineer. And the big thing for me was how, I can't think of a better word, but ordinary he was. A lot of people, when they get into, the big office or a lofty position and whatnot, they turn into different kind of folks, you know. Oh, I'm too busy for that. I'm a big person, big picture person or something. He's not. He's a detail guy. He can see the big picture, but he knows the only way to get to the big picture is through one step at a time. And so that's an engineer mind, not an MBA mind. It's a totally different way of thinking on problems.
I mean, at Tesla's battery day, one of the things that stuck out was Elon was spewing out all these details on batteries as if he was, one of the engineers behind this all. I mean, how much of the day do you think Elon is involved with like design meetings for Tesla? Do you think he's really in the nitty gritty with, the batteries or the factories or the car itself, or like, how do you envision his role at Tesla?
I can tell you for sure that he's in. If there's a big decision to be made, he's going to be part of it. And by big decision, I mean, hey, let's change the new chemistry, or let's buy a new company, or show me the technology that's come in from outside. And of course, I forgot the name. What's the name? Something Spring. The name Spring Power. So, as you know, on Battery Day, he talked a lot about different chemistries and on, and the tabless part. Well, now we're finding out that the 3 main chemistry alterations that were made to the 4680 looks like they came from Spring Power, a small company in Mississauga, and they sold it to Tesla for $3. Okay, so $3 doesn't sound like a heck of a lot, but there's sometimes a lot that goes in back of buying a couple 3 patents. And I'm sure that he's a good engineer, but I'm also certain that he does a better job at business than most of the people that I bump into. And so eventually, I'm sure we'll find out what exactly happened there. But it isn't going to be coming anytime soon. But when it comes to the details associated with chemistry and whatnot, no question in my mind, he knows what he's talking about, and there's no question in my mind that he doesn't get involved in some of these details, like buying spring power.
How unique is it that a CEO of an 80,000 person company is deeply involved in the engineering details? Like in a typical OEM, like a CEO, like how many levels removed are they from the engineering details of a car?
Okay, so when I was at Ford Motor Company and I came in, I was a grade 6 engineer. Okay, I moved up to a grade 7 because I invented something. I moved to a grade 8 when I went to engine division staff. I became a grade 9 when I moved up to something else. I was an 11. Then I was I was going to be a 13, and then there was a little issue with, it was a big, long story, but in essence, I never got to the 13. I left the company. Okay, so 13 is the first level of executive role, okay? First level of executive role. So I was a supervisor role, management role, and now it's going to go into 13, which is the E role. So from 13 to 24, 24 is the CEO. That's how much goes on in between, right? Mm-hmm. It's there's a lot of things that go on there. To get to those loftier kinds of positions, you have to be in something called fast track. And that's where you spend about a month here and there, and they picked you based on maybe what you did in school or maybe the job that you had prior to coming to Ford or whatever. And then you go on to fast track, and you're sometimes a month, sometimes 6 months, but not very long, not long enough to grasp all the stuff that's going on. On top of that, they want you to have an MBA on top of whatever degree you have. And so there's an executive MBA that Ford has, and you get that on top of it. So you're getting an MBA, you're being pushed from one place to the next, and you're being, and you're moving up. So there's not much time for you to really get depth in pretty much anything. When you bump into, when I was at, I've been at many companies and talked to CEOs and presidents and things like that. I have never, except for Toyota, I have never talked to a CEO that had any knowledge of what was going on at the engineering level or at the manufacturing level. None of that stuff, because that's not part of their daily job. And Elon Musk is unique, totally unique in that aspect. There's nobody I've been bumped into that has his depth of knowledge throughout the whole company. No one.
So if most OEM CEOs don't have much engineering, knowledge or manufacturing, like detailed knowledge, what is their knowledge? Like what are they focused on every day, you think?
I don't know. I never got that high, but my guess is that it's mostly trying to control people or trying to control situations. I think that even strategically, that work is done by other people. So I know that when I was still at Ford, my job was to basically keep my director informed. And so I had a boss, but he was next to worthless. So I would work directly with a guy named Jim Canassa. He was a very, very smart guy, but he knew nothing about what I was working on. So he was in charge of artificial intelligence. He was in charge of expert systems, which I was in charge of, and a couple of other things. And technical industrial controls is what it was called. So our job was to make sure that Jim, when he walked into a room, knew what to say about what things. So he would, if he was asked anything, he would flip through his pages and he'd basically read what we wrote for him. That's kind of like what his job was, and he was at a director level, not at an executive level, and certainly not at a VP level, and definitely not, at a president level. But my guess is that normally people would get a briefing on what's going on. It's just like the president of the United States doesn't know, if one of the buck privates was unhappy with his assignment cleaning latrines. They get the information that they think is needed by people who work for them.
Mm-hmm. What happens, do you think, if Tesla is without Elon Musk? How soon does the impact show up? Is Tesla going to be fine for, let's say, 5 years, or do you think the culture has been set enough where they're going to be an engineering-driven, company for many, many years, or do you think that Elon still is kind of the glue that holds together that engineering focus and excellence?
I think that Elon Musk has picked his people wisely, and he has quite a number of people underneath him that have deep engineering backgrounds. Now, if you want to find out what happens if the board of directors does something incredibly stupid, look at Apple. Look at Steve Jobs. Hey, get rid of that guy. We don't need this stuff. We're going to show you how to make money, right? They picked a bunch of folks that I don't know what their backgrounds were, but they were mostly finance. Instead of looking at the future is only going to be the future as long as you have good technical depth. And they thought, hey, can't we just buy this cheaper? And unfortunately, that can't we just buy that cheaper? That's what puts companies out of business. I think Elon Musk learned a lot from Apple. And so what he did was he picked his board. And on top of that, he picked the people that he wants to have in charge. And those people are wicked smart, and they're highly technical. One of the other things we talked about that we have in common is I'm not a really big fan of HR. I've always looked at them as people who, they pick up your resume, they read it. Oh, you went to Harvard. Here. Oh, look at that. Oh, okay, but that means nothing in the big scheme of things. Elon Musk said that one of the things he's the most frightened of is that somebody's going to walk in the door with the exact experience or the exact talents that he's looking for, but because they don't have that sheepskin, or because they don't have, the glowing stuff that an HR person would look at, he'll miss the boat. But I think that he even has a hand in how things are done in HR. And I'll tell you, the Japanese companies, Japanese and Korean companies, they look at people as the real commodity in their success. And other people that are professional HR people, they look at things as, well, what school did you go to? And, do you play, sports, or what's your hobbies and interests? Elon Musk is not interested in that. And most of the people that I bumped into that are technically astute, his executives, or the executive that I met, these guys are deep technology people, and they have a phenomenal grasp on the future. So if Elon Musk died, one of these guys would take over. That person would probably control the board still, and they keep away the people who kill companies. I mean, what's that guy's name? Jack, Neutron Jack. I've forgotten his name. Anyway, there's a good example of what happens when you've got a cheapskate running a company. He started with GE, and they made everything, and they made tremendous amounts of money. They were a stock to always keep, and he turned them into what? I mean, when I was a kid, GE made everything from light bulbs to jet engines. Now what do? Pretty much nothing. Because he was getting a bonus. He was getting rewarded for getting rid of the company. You start putting stock aboard with that kind of person, and you're going to see the end not too far down the road. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You get a couple of good quarters, but that'll be about it.
I want to ask you about the Biden EV tax incentive or tax rebate. It seems like, that could be a huge catalyst, a huge demand driver. If, it could be an unlimited, uncapped, let's say for 4 or 5 years or something, $7,500 or so. What's your take on this? Do you think that it will pass? Do you think it will have a big demand in boosting EV credits? Who do you think will be the big beneficiaries?
The tax credits or anything to do with the government, I'm probably the last person in the world. I can't predict anything there. I think that what Biden has done is he's looked at everywhere else. China is giving tax credits. Japan is giving tax credits. The biggest push on the planet is Norway, and look what happened there. I mean, 70 or 80% of the cars sold are EVs. Why? Because there's no sales tax on a car that's an EV. And what are people buying? Well, they're buying Jags. They're buying Porsche. But they're really buying a lot of is Tesla and Polestar. Those are the two big ones. One, Polestar is built, right next door in Sweden. But I think that every country is doing it right now. It makes sense that we should jump on that bandwagon. Otherwise, we're going to be left behind. But the big problem hasn't got to do with tax credits. What are we going to do? How are we going to get batteries? Because in essence, the country is completely left behind on battery technology or battery manufacturing. Technology, we got in a plenty. We're not building batteries here. Everybody relied on China to supply us with whatever we needed. And now that is the bottleneck, is batteries.
Mm-hmm. I mean, with Tesla's, big jump into 4680 cells, the whole battery day presentation. I mean, is that going to solve the issue, do you think? Do you think Tesla will be able to become the dominant, battery producer in the world in the next several years?
They're not. I think Cattell and BYD have got bigger market share right now. But if everything goes according to Elon's plan, if he's not the biggest, he'll definitely be one of the biggest contenders. But he needs these batteries for his own product right now. I mean, he's not interested in selling anything to anybody. He needs every battery he can get his hands on. So I'm pretty sure that. Okay, so the Cato plan is up and running, cranking out 4680. Nothing else is. Everything else is being constructed. So I'm pretty sure, though, that once that happens, he's going to be centering his attention on that, because the only other contender would be Quantumscape or somebody that's producing a real viable. And Quantumscape's not producing anything right now, but one of these. And you know what? We've got to stop talking about solid state. There's no such thing, and there never will be. We have to talk about semi-solid state. So Quantumscape has got a solid lithium bar, and then they've got a separator, and then they've got their I think it's the cathode that's got a liquid electrolyte in it, and that works. Okay, I don't have dendrites. It'll be quick to charge, on and on and on. It'll last forever. Okay, that's what Quantumscape has got. To say it's solid state, I'm going to have a bar of this and a separator and a bar of that ain't happening. Everybody that knows anything about chemistry knows that just won't work. There's no way. There has to be some kind of some sort of electrolyte. I don't care what you want to call it, but you have to have something there that's going to make the electrons flow. And with that, with what I saw anyway, with that separator made out of ceramic, that looks to me to be the ticket. Yeah, I'm pretty excited about that. We'll have to see about the others. And there are I mean, Blue has got, they've got a semi-solid, they've got a solid state solid state battery. The problem there is that I got to go to 180 degrees Celsius 180 degrees Fahrenheit to make that work. I don't want to make heat. That's not good. Mm-hmm. But that's how they're making it work. You can either use heat or you can use some sort of a fluid. Mm-hmm. And
I got a lot of questions and people asking about Quantumscape because you just interviewed their CEO. Were you less bullish or more bullish after the interview you had with their CEO?
Lately I've been bumping into people that are kind of similar. I talked with Elon Musk, and I talked to some other CEOs of different companies like JR from Rivian and whatnot. And then I talked to Jagdeep, and they all have something in common. They're humble. You can't believe how many CEOs I've talked to that are so arrogant. I mean, you can't wait to get the heck out of the room. And not only was Jagdeep humble, there was only about 3 or 4 minutes taken out of that interview. There was virtually nothing. He answered everything off the top of his head, and some of the questions were kind of difficult. Plus, he said, "Well, we've got a new PowerPoint that we're going to be releasing to the general population," and he popped it up there, and he went through every stinking slide, every one of them. And I doubt very much if that's ever going to be released to the general public, but he wanted me to know what was going on, and every one of them, he knew everything about the chemistry, the process, the suppliers, the on and on and on. And then I went into their lab, and I guess they don't let too many people in there. There's no real reason to put in a reporter. What is he going to look at? Nothing. So I went through the lab. I saw everything about it, and it's definitely the best lab that I've seen for solid-state battery investigation and whatnot. And so for me, I was solidly, oh no, I can't do it. Oh no, I'm not going to do it. I was very impressed. Got
it. That's awesome.
Today. I can't, I don't want to ruin my reputation with you as well. So there you go.
Got it. But, that's great. Thanks for sharing. I'm curious with the 4680 cells. So we have the Cato Road, pilot factory, one production line, trying to refine this process. What do you think is the plan to supply Austin and Berlin with 4680 cells? Do you think they're going to come from Cato, or are they going to come from other suppliers in the meantime, or does Tesla have to wait to build, the batteries on site, which it seems like it's going to take a while. So what are your thoughts?
Batteries on site is probably what he's shooting for. He's probably got some limp along process in between, but as you know, he went back to Panasonic, and I don't know what they kissed and made up or something like that. But they're going to be making those batteries, and it's much, much faster to convert a battery plant than it is to build and install all the equipment for a battery plant. And I think that that's probably what's going to happen. He's going to get friends to help him, and I think their big friend is Panasonic. It's been that way for a long time. Elon strikes me as a kind of a guy that, if you're his buddy, you're his buddy forever until you make some sort of a stupid mistake or something. I think that Panasonic will be probably cranking stuff out for him, and that will mean that he'll be up and running a lot faster than everybody else.
I mean, do you think Panasonic will make the batteries on site then in Berlin and Austin? I guess the question is the first 6 months or so, when Tesla might not have had time to put their battery lines in Austin or Berlin. Do you think Panasonic or they will be able to supply the 4680 cells? Do you think they'll be from Japan, or where will they be from?
They'll probably come out of Japan. I'm pretty sure that they won't They won't want to ship that technology to China or anywhere else for that matter. And like I said, it's easy to convert a plant. If you've got all the equipment there and all I have to do is change the diameter of the pucks that take these things in for processing, or the spin up technology for actually wrapping the battery is changed a little bit. No big wow. I can do that in a heartbeat. Changing the chemicals. You have to clean everything periodically anyway. So pumping out the old chemicals, putting in the new chemicals, or actually I wouldn't even do that. I would just take all the hoppers and canisters out, put new ones in. In fact, I'd probably even change the lines, because at the end of the day, all the high-speed equipment is the same. It's just the same. Now all I've got to do is I have to change the wrappers. I have to change the the two basic ingredients for the anode and cathode, and then I push the button and away it goes. So it's where if you're putting up a new factory, it might take 2 years. To recondition a factory, it might take 2 months. Why would I waste my time doing anything extraordinary? And then Panasonic isn't going to have to go through a myriad of hoops, because those factories are already tested, validated. They have the complete agreement of the government that they know what they're doing, and so that would be the fastest route, and that's what I would take. Yeah,
makes sense.
Yeah.
What kind of cells do you think are the new Model S and Model X using?
The new Model S and X are still using 2170s, I think, with a different chemistry.
Okay.
I think the new chemistry from Spring Power might be being used inside there. I don't think they went with tablets, but changing the chemistry on a battery is not as difficult as building a new factory. So I think that they probably are using this new chemistry in the 2170s, and I'm pretty sure that they won't just do it for. I'm pretty sure they won't just do it for the S and X. Why would I? I would just convert everything and just start pumping it out and pushing it into the Y and the 3, because they do things on the fly. I've used the term enough now that it's actually being used by other people, but Tesla moves at the speed of thought. Everybody else like a snail. So that's kind of like why they're ahead of the game. They move fast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. I'm curious with the structural battery pack. So, it seems like this was one of the big points of Battery Day, creating, a battery pack out of the main structure of the car. A few questions on this. Like, how many years do you think it'll take before other OEMs end up copying this and put a structural battery pack, or is it even possible that they actually do this? And then the second question is, what kind of advantage, does this really give Tesla? Like, what is that key kind of, thing that really, does it change the game? I guess that's the question.
Yeah. Okay. So sitting on my floor right now outside, and sitting there for somewhere between 13 to 15 years, is a lower platform. So basically what people might call a skateboard. It's been sitting there for 13 to 15 years. It's 3 castings. Thousands, literally thousands of engineers have walked by. I pointed it out to them. I said, hey, you know what? Have you ever thought of doing this? This is a great idea. Turned it down. In fact, most of them, if I go back and I say, remember when I told you about that 15 years ago? Oh, no, you didn't tell me. Oh, I would have jumped on that. No, you wouldn't. You wouldn't, because when the expectations don't match the results, people physiologically cannot see the data. Okay? Now, that's what happens when you have firmly held convictions. When you talk to somebody who's been a body guy all his life, he'll tell you 2 things. 1, the only way to build a car is with a whole bunch of little pieces and you weld them together. And 2, Oh, you don't understand. You never want to have body on frame. That's too expensive. Well, let's talk about your one question. Eliminating the like turning 3 castings into the whole lower platform. You've just eliminated thousands of parts and operations. Thousands. That's not an exaggeration. That's not a metaphor. Thousands of operations have just vanished. Thousands of parts and operations. If you think about it, what did that thing turn into? Well, it's a frame. Anytime somebody says, oh, this is a skateboard, that means they're trying to pull your chain, okay? It's not a skateboard. It's a frame. And by putting the batteries into the center of that frame, you've just eliminated thousands and thousands of stupid things that can go wrong. And I think that, quite frankly, we're probably looking at, just by taking those 3 castings, filling the center one up with batteries, and then somehow putting it together. There's a lot of different versions on how you could do that. You could weld it, you could bolt it, you could bolt it and weld it. It could be pinned, it could be glued. There's all kinds of things that can make it happen. But at the end of the day, what you're looking at is the elimination of about 1/3 of the whole fabrication part of the vehicle. 1/3. That's a lot of money, robots, square footage, and quite frankly, issues. Because that thing, that great big giant 3-piece casting has now produced something that's rigid and will give you a perfect build. And a perfect build is not what you get when you weld a whole bunch of bits and pieces together. You can't get it. And that's why Elon ran into his production hell and whatnot. He thought it was a piece of cake. It's not. It's very difficult to do. The older OEMs have perfected how to get around that problem, but we're looking at a revolutionary change. So I don't think I'm going to see any engineers running out to do that. And the reason for that is because they'd rather die than switch. And that's a fact. They'd rather put the company out of business than switch to something that looks as radically different as that, because it'll wreck their career. There's always 2 things you think about when you're thinking, if you're an engineer: car, career. If it's good for the car and it's good for my career, it's an easy path. If it's good for the car but bad for my career, that's an easy path too. If it's good for my career and bad for the car, also an easy path. You can tell right away what kind of engineer you've got by watching that engineer make a decision, of the car career decision. And we hired people who either had success with saying that this is good for the car and it's good for my career, and they succeeded. And the other guys that we hire are the guys that say, this is good for the car but bad for my career, but I'm doing it anyway. And that's the guy I want, or gal I want. Yeah.
You just mentioned like 1/3. I mean, saving 1/3. Is it the entire process? Are you talking about like, by having, the structural battery pack in the front and rear piece castings? Are we talking about 1/3 less, I guess, time and less machines, less operations?
No, a lot less time. I'm talking about the stamping plant. The machines that are inside the stamping plant, those big stamping machines are huge. They're bigger than you can possibly believe. And then you've got dies inside of them that create parts. And then you've got robots that pick the parts out and put them onto conveyors, and there's a lot of those. And then you've got shipping racks that take the parts after it's been stamped and put them into these racks. And then you've got tugs, and you've got people that are running around with forklift trucks, taking them from wherever they were stamped to wherever they need to be put together. I'm talking about a tremendous number of body fixtures, clamps, and mechanisms that hold these things in place. And then I'm talking about robots that will move the parts into these fixtures. And then I'm talking about welding machines that will pinch weld them together. And then I'm talking about more robots that will take them out of those fixtures, put them onto conveyors, and then the conveyors will take them to the body assembly area and picking them up and putting them in place for final welding. These things, people, unless you've actually been through a body shop, it's hard to comprehend. And by the way, most of the stamping is done offline. Nobody wants to have that noise continuously pounding out parts, especially the bigger ones. So they come from different suppliers. So when you're looking at this, you're not just looking at what's going on in this one little area. You're looking at, in some cases, 1,000 miles of travel to get from where that supplier is to where that part's actually going to be used. It's amazing how this infrastructure works, and all the incidences that can happen in between that could bend a part, which makes it impossible to use when you put it into the welding box. Now, when you're looking at all of this stuff going on, you say, well, what about the amount of time? It's ponderous how much time there is for stamping all these bits out. The molds that Elon Musk is using for the mega castings or giga castings, whatever they're calling them now, they fill up in milliseconds. Okay, so there's 1,000 milliseconds inside of 1 second, and we're looking at these things filling up in less than 1 second. That's pretty fast. Now it has to sit there for a little bit to cool down, but it doesn't take that long. And when the mold opens and that part is pulled out, there's a few sprues and runners that have to be knocked off, and there's a couple of points that they want to have machined, and you're done. It's wicked fast, comparatively speaking, to all of the other operations that are going on. And when you talk about how much labor is involved, it's virtually none. There are hundreds of people that do things to make the platform proper. If you're looking at a normal plant, and you're going to have very, very few people when you're looking at a plant that uses the mega or giga casting.
So help me go through this. So you have, the front piece, the rear piece, single piece casting, along with the middle part where the batteries go, and you somehow stick all of them together, whether it be bolts or glue or welding or something.
Whatever, yeah.
And what else is needed to get your body in white before it goes into the paint shop?
The top hat. So the top hat will probably remain the way it is. You could wind up with some people going in the direction that the BMW i3 did, where you make a safety module where the people are. You make that safety module and you just glue that to the bottom part of the whatever you want to call it, skateboard or rolling chassis. That would be pretty much it. It would be either conventional, where you take the sheet metal and then you'd attach it. It depends on what they make the rest of the body out of. It's made out of composite. I mean, you'd glue it. If you glue it with maybe Henrob self-piercing rivets, if it's steel, then you'd be using an adhesive that was also acting as a boundary layer. Same thing, same sort of attachment. So, and if it's made out of aluminum to aluminum, they like each other normally. So it could be, again, adhesive and self-piercing rivets that would hold it together.
Recently, Elon, I think he tweeted something about how Tesla was eventually going to make cars kind of like how Hot Wheels makes their cars.
Yeah.
What does he mean by that?
That's the whole bottom end of the car. You can't make, I can't make anything flow thin enough so I could make the whole car out of a Hot Wheel. But I can make everything from the top hat down, and that's what he's done. So there may be another opportunity for him, and that would be to do the body inner. So that's the stuff you can't see. Sometimes that's called the body in black because it's dark. I mean, and so if he wanted to do that, then what he could do is he could make a space frame that would be shot in a mold similar to what he's got right now, and that would give you the shotguns, the A pillar, the B pillar, C and D pillars, and basically the roof structure. Shoot that all in one, and then pop that out, and then you'd tag that down to the rolling chassis, and that would be made out of aluminum. So that would be adhesively bonded along with something that would hold it in place. You could weld that if you wanted to, aluminum welding, TIG welding, and then that would be the whole structure for the whole car. And then I'm guessing at that point I would not use sheet metal. I would just snap plastic panels on, and that's precisely what the BMW i3 did. All those panels just snap in place. They're made out of plastic, nice and light and easy, gives you a good fit. And if you do get into an accident or something like that, so what if a fender or a quarter panel pops off, you just tag a new one on, snap it in, away you go.
Mm-hmm. So how does this look like practically in terms of, so I think at Battery Day, Tesla was saying 10% mass reduction, 14% range increase opportunity, and 370 fewer parts for the structural battery pack and the front and rear piece castings. Right. What does this mean in terms of will Tesla be able to make cars for cheaper? And if so, is it just a little bit cheaper, or is this actually going to be some significant savings? Are we talking about just a few percent margin savings, or are we talking about more than that in terms of, you think, overall costs?
I believe that the cars could be made cheaper, but Elon's still supposed to be making money for shareholders. Whether he passes that number along to the buying public, that's a company decision that would be made by a bunch of people smarter than I am. But I'm positive that I can make it in less time with less people and less investment. I know that for sure. The casting will cost more than the sheet metal that you had before, so there's a material cost disadvantage just pound for pound. But the advantage for with labor reduction and stuff like that, I think that's going to offset that extra cost. Mm-hmm. So it could be a wash, I'm thinking. But at the end of the day, what we're really looking at is not just reduction in cost, but what have I done to ensure higher quality? What have I done to make it more rigid product? What have I done to decrease the amount of costs associated with investments in machine tools? Idra's presses are not cheap, but when you compare them to one of the like a Mitsubishi press or something like that to crank out a body, or you're looking at a huge expense there. The molds that they're using and the dies that I would use inside of a stamping plant, there's no comparison. When you add up all those little bits and pieces and all those dies and whatnot, you're looking at a mold that'll easily be cheaper than all those other bits and pieces. Mm-hmm. And then we haven't even talked about how I have to put them together. All the robots, all the body bucks, all the transporting of parts from here to there. So I think that in the worst case scenario, it would be a wash, but I'm pretty sure that there's probably enough savings there that it would be cheaper to do the three castings. And that's why I recommended it to customers and potential customers. That's why, like I say, it's been on the floor for at least 13 years. We've argued in here. Mm-hmm. I think it's 15, but some people are pretty sure it was 13 years sitting on the floor. Mm-hmm. So if you did just a swap of, let's say the structural battery pack and the front and rear piece castings, how much does that add to range? So, is it, does the weight, is it because of the reduction in weight or mass that it allows for a range increase? And what percent range increase do you anticipate? I can't really comment on that because I don't have enough data. But I can tell you that when I work with the guys in Korea, Japan, and China, because mostly I was working on cars outside of the country. And when I teach the classes on how to design vehicles and stuff like that, I have a rule. Every engineer, 1 gram every day. That's how important the reduction in weight is, as far as I'm concerned. Weight is one of the biggest drawbacks to an electric vehicle. Weight really hurts. So getting rid of 1 gram a day from every engineer, that would work really well. Now, when we look at what Tesla's done with the weight reduction there, my guess is that they've probably given themselves about, and this is a guess, I would say between 6 and 8 percent more range. So 6 or 8 points for sure.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Why not just a single piece casting for the entire, front and rear and middle section? I mean, is that necessary?
Nobody's got a press big enough. The biggest press on the planet, the biggest presses on the planet now all belong to Tesla. And there's 12 more of them that are coming out from Hydra. The rest of the press companies can't do that. There's one in China that manufactures a press that's similar to Hydra. And there's one in Sweden that cranks these things out. And the one in Sweden is about 3 or 4,000 tons smaller. And when you're talking of thousands of tons, that's a big ass footprint. That's a huge amount of material. And getting from where you are at those types of sizes to where Hydra is, that takes years and years of testing and validation. Because if you allow these things to blow up or miss cycle, you can eliminate the whole damn factory. These things are, the stuff that's going on there is wicked hot under huge amounts of pressure. You don't fool around with this.
Got it. I mean, do you anticipate at some point, at some day, that there will be a single machine that does a single casting for the entire kind of frame?
Probably not in my lifetime. But then again, there's a lot of stuff that's happened in the last 5 years that is I didn't know that. I get amazed every day. I mean that sincerely. There's new stuff coming in every day. I never thought I would say it, but one of the things that I'm looking at right now is hydrogen, solid state hydrogen. So instead of having a big bottle full of hydrogen inside of it, how about I give you a disc about this big and a laser beam hits it and hydrogen comes out. Right now, that is a possibility, and not a possibility, it's been done. It was held back by the U.S. government for the last 10 years, but one of the good things that Trump did was he released these people from the clutches of the Department of Energy, because they were nervous about this. And now Volvo and I can't really talk too much about that. So, but now there's truck companies that are looking seriously at what's going on with this technology, because batteries in big trucks, not so much. I'm not a fan of the Tesla truck with big batteries, because I know when I was at Ford, we still made Class 8 trucks, and they want to haul things that are going to make them money. They don't want to haul batteries. Okay, anything, if they could find a light engine that would last 1 million miles, they'd be in. If I have a fuel cell and I can have these discs which weigh next to nothing, and I just have to laser out the hydrogen and put it into a containerized situation where I could use them inside of a fuel cell, or actually, I could run an internal combustion engine on hydrogen, and all that comes out the tailpipe is water. I mean, why not? I'll take that all day long too. And that would make things even lighter than if I was using diesel fuel, and I could go farther. I could make them go farther. There's a lot of advantages to that system. If I would have been asked about this or told about this even 2 or 3 years ago, I would have said baloney. But I mean, again, every day there's new stuff coming on the marketplace, and I think that the people who keep an open mind and jump on these opportunities are the ones that are going to win. And I have another expression that it's in times of change, the learners will adapt and succeed, and the learned will be beautifully equipped for a world that no longer exists. And there's a lot of learned folks that are around. People think they're just old people, but that's not true. It's there's a lot of people that have been brainwashed into thinking there's only one way of getting the job done, and they know it, and that's the way it's going to be. Those are the learned folks, and the more they're into that mode, the more likelihood that they're going to wind up in second place in the next coming years. So.
Got it. Cybertruck. So a lot of questions on this.
Yeah.
We know that, Tesla released this stellar, stainless steel design. They need to fold metal. How challenging do you think that's going to be for them to learn this entirely kind of new production process? Do you anticipate?
It's not new.
It's not new. I mean,
this is not
for Tesla to learn it, at least to, incorporate, to ramp, Cybertruck production. Do you think, I guess the question is it going to be relatively straightforward, do you think, or do you think there are going to be some challenges and delays in terms of how they ramp?
Delays would be bad, okay, because Munro has 5 on order. 5. Does that tell you what I think?
Wait, why do you guys have 5?
Because we want them. When they came out, we knew that it was going to be coming out. We were in the first, 15 minutes. We had 5 of them ordered.
Got it.
And one of them is mine because I have a Jeep. I've driven Jeep Wranglers forever, and I have a Rubicon with dents and scratches and rust sitting right outside. And I like going off-roading. I don't have much of anything else going on in my life. I like to go off-roading. I'm a hunter. I like to go hunting. But lately it's been kind of a drag because I don't like getting up at the crack of dawn to put on all this hunting paraphernalia and then walk, basically at least a mile to get to some place where the deer might be. And then sitting there in the cold thinking, I hope a deer shows up pretty soon. And when the deer does show up, it basically hides behind a tree and sticks its tongue out at you. Okay, so that's kind of like the old-fashioned hunting. The new hunting for me is going to be, I put all my stuff into the back of the Tesla Cybertruck. I have it fully charged, and I go zipping out into the forest. I go where I run over the blind. In fact, that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to crush that blind, run right over it, and just sit right there. And then I'm going to turn on a microwave or whatever I can plug in. I will cook a TV dinner. I'll go to bed, and I'll be warm inside my little truck. And in the morning, I will get out of the truck, and I can't run over the blind because I have to go to the blind. I'll get in a blind, and if I want a cup of coffee, I will get out of the blind, go to my Cybertruck, pour coffee out of one of those little Keurig things, and go back and wait for the deer to show up. And I'm telling you what, that is what I'm looking forward to. No noise, convenient up the wazoo. There's nothing going to get in my way that I can't drive out to, or I'm not worried about snow. I'm not worried about mud. I'm not worried about anything. I can't do that with my Wrangler. I just can't do it. I've tried. It doesn't work. You leave the engine on, you smell everything. The deer won't come anywhere near you. It doesn't smell like that. If it smells like anything, it's going to smell like after a rain storm, like ozone kind of stuff. That's about it, and that doesn't happen either. So I'm pretty excited about the Tesla Cybertruck coming down the pike, as is a whole bunch of other people that are in the hunt, as it were, or hunters. It's definitely not going to compete with the Rivian, because we have 5 of those on orders as well. I don't have one of those, but the guys here that drive pickup trucks, they can't wait to get them. In fact, one guy out in Phoenix, we had I don't want to get into it. I can't talk about that, not to you guys anyways. But anyway, we were brought in to do stuff for an investor, and our guy Chris Ferlin out in Phoenix, he got a chance to drive this thing, came back in, closed the door, said, "Can I get on your list?" "Yep, I want one of these things. I'll sell my Trailhawk and buy one of." So it's very compelling for a lot of people who are engineers. I like to think that our guys are enlightened engineers. There's a lot of people got engineers in their staff and whatnot. We search around for people who are enlightened, that are interested in the future and are not stuck in the same old way of doing things, and don't care whether they're working on a Cybertruck or a rocket to the moon. I want guys just like Elon Musk is hiring. That's what I hire here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So in terms of like delays or challenges for Cybertruck production, are you kind of pretty optimistic that it'll be pretty smooth?
I am, because like I say, I know that an exoskeleton product is going to be easier to produce than one that's stamped and has ribs and stuff like that, because I designed an airplane that had an exoskeleton, and we found that we could reduce the cost the labor went down by 90%, and the cost dropped by 45% when we went to that different design, or that different style of design.
Do you think Tesla can extend that exoskeleton design for like a cheaper, let's say $25,000 car? Or do you think it's just not going to meet the tastes of people mass market wise?
Okay, so the Cybertruck is polarizing. You either like it or hate it. There's nothing in between. There's some people, I never hear, I'm warming up to it. That isn't going to happen. So when that thing came rolling out, like I missed it at night. The other guys were doing it. I was jet lag or something. I can't remember. But anyway, I didn't see it. And they brought me in. They said, here's the truck you just bought. And I said, okay, fine. And they turned it on, and I watched it on the big screen over there. And that thing came rolling out, and I said, I love it. I absolutely love this. And drove around a little bit, so that you could see every angle. This is perfect. If you love it, it's going to be love at first sight. And if you hate it, you'll hate it forever, right from the very first look. And I think that having a car like that is way too dangerous. I would not build a car that had that edgy look, because quite frankly, you have to appeal to a market, and an inexpensive car is not going to look like a Cybertruck. It won't have those edges. It wouldn't be that. Most people like to buy. I'm not sure if this is politically correct anymore, but most people would prefer to buy a female product. A female product means that it's got rounded edges and stuff like that. To have square edges and whatnot, that's a Jeep Wrangler, and that appeals to some people, but not everyone. Mm-hmm. Not many people would go with a Jeep Wrangler. They don't want it. Mm-hmm. It's too boxy.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Do you think Tesla will have to make or will make a more traditional looking pickup truck in the future as well to appeal to different segments? Or do you think the Cybertruck itself is just good enough for the entire pickup industry?
Well, no, it's not a pickup truck. It's not the right configuration, but they could turn the Cybertruck into a pickup truck if they wanted to. But I don't know. I think having something that could be like a sport truck, that thing's like geared toward somebody like myself that would like to take it to go hunting or fishing, or definitely when you go off road on this, I can camp in it. I mean, to me, it's brilliant. It's perfect. I doubt very much if my wife will be enthusiastic about it as enthusiastic about it as I am. However, she does like the Tesla Model 3. We have one, actually the one we crossed the country in. We still have that here, and she likes that a lot.
Cool. I want to talk about some of the competition. So Lucid Motors, they are claiming to be the most efficient EV, the most efficient motors, powertrain, etc., over 500 miles on their top-of-the-line car. Do you believe that? Are you skeptical, or what's your take on Lucid?
I only believe in one thing, data. And Dr. Deming used to say, in God we trust, all others data. All others bring data. And I'm kind of in the same mode. Show me the data. I'll get a hold of one. We'll drive it around. We'll make sure that we do things in a fair way. And after we're done with that, we'll tear the car to pieces, and then I'll tell you everything you need to know. And like I say, we do reports like this. So we've compared Tesla to various different Teslas to the Bolt, a whole bunch of different vehicles, and Tesla keeps coming out as the best. They have in some cases the smallest battery pack, at 75 kilowatts, but they go farther than everybody else. At the end of the day, it's all about that. How far can you go with what they've given you? And I hear lots of people talk. When I get one and I have the data, you can bet your bum that I will be able to, I'll be able to tell you for sure who did what and whether or not they're telling the truth.
Mm-hmm. So. Got it. Chinese EV makers, so you have like NIO, XPeng, Li Auto, others. They seem to be, aggressively pushing out their cars. Do you think Chinese EV automakers are the top competition eventually, let's say 5 or 10 years down the road for Tesla? First question. Second question is, can these Chinese automakers go global outside of China? Or is that going to be kind of more challenging to difficult for them?
They're already global. No, they're already global. So we just did analysis, a quick analysis on the Polestar 2. Right now, with the cars that we've assessed, I would say that the Tesla comes in 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, that's for sure. Number 5, believe it or not, is the Mach-E. That comes in number 5. Number 6 is the Polestar. And then I would like to just stop at 5, but all the rest of them that we've looked at are no big wow. So the Polestar is who? Oh, that's Chinese, right? So at the end of the day, if Geely can come in and take over, and basically that's what they're doing. I mean, the Polestar and the Volvo brand are both owned by Geely. If they can come in and take over, who in their right mind is going to say, "Oh no, that'll never happen"? Only the learned. Remember the learned? Yeah. Okay, I just talked about them. Here's something. You're a little young, but I remember the Japanese invasion. I remember Henry Ford II saying, "Oh, we're going to let the Japanese have the small car business because we can't make money out of them anyway. But they'll never understand luxury cars and pickup trucks." Right. Yeah. Wrong. And that's what's going to happen here too. Everybody's going to get a little smaller, and the Chinese cars are going to come in an invasion, and the general population here will look at them and say, "Hey, these cars look fabulous. Hey, these things go for a long ways. Hey, I like this car. Hey, it drives good." And I've driven everything you mentioned and then some, because my last trip to China was in basically November of 2019, and I was negotiating contracts with several of the different Chinese car companies, all that stuff went south when Trump made a bunch of edicts, and then COVID and all this other stuff. So they went away, but I got a chance to drive all these vehicles, a lot of them anyway, and they're damn good. And then you have to look at just the mere numbers, the scale in China. When I was there last time, I was supposed to be the keynote speaker, but Chairman Xi came on, and can't believe it, he took my place. I'm going to be first. Oh, all right, fine, go ahead. But it was like a video conference. And he talked about the 650 Chinese car companies out there, and he wanted them to get down to about 350, and then ultimately down to about 125. Okay, that sounds like a big drop, doesn't it? How many car companies we got here? 2, right? That's it, 2. And I think that if you look at Europe, the Europeans are going to get clobbered first, I'm sure. And a European buyer, it used to be, oh, I'm a Frenchman, so I'll drive a French car, or I'm a German, and I'm going to drive a German car, and I'm English, I'm going to drive a Bentley. That's gone now, because Bentley is owned by VW, and Rolls-Royce is owned by BMW. And all the other little car companies have all been gobbled up, and they used to be, local kind of stuff, but now it's only a few Germans that are the same. Everything else is pretty much gone into the international world. So I'm pretty sure that what we're going to be seeing here shortly is a fairly big invasion by the Chinese. And I would look for, like I say, Geely with a Polestar. I'd look for the guys like NIO, you've already mentioned, but BYD and BJEV, Beijing Automotive, with their EVs. I mean, these are really, really nice cars, really nice. And some of these people that are out there, I mean, they're claiming, oh yeah, we're built it here in California. They're still Chinese companies. I don't care what you think or say. They're making a beachhead faster than everybody else. Mm-hmm. So I think you're going to see a flood of things, and it'll be interesting to see what happens with some of the local car companies, how they're going to react to that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Definitely interesting. What do you? I mean, it seems like the car market, but also the future autonomous transport market is huge. It could be trillions of dollars of value. It seems like big tech is also eyeing that. What would be the challenges of big tech into getting into the auto market? Like, could they actually, manufacture their own cars? Like, what would be the challenges and obstacles they would have to overcome to become a legitimate player?
There's a tremendous amount of money involved to get into that game. Elon Musk got in because he had so many loyal followers, and he was the first one in. So if you're the pioneer, you collect all the best land, and you claim it as your own. Everybody else is going to be searching for scraps if they aren't in the car industry already. Where I think big tech could be really make some money is if you look at the operating systems associated with Android, Apple, and you look at in China Huawei, and you look at Tesla's operating systems and a couple of others, I see everybody's got their own operating system right now, and I see it boiling down to only the tech companies, including Tesla. And even Tesla better figure out who they're going to be their new best friend, because they need to get into the same sort of scenario as what Apple is, where you're looking at you're gaining some of the aspects associated with your cell phone. But operating systems, that's where they could really shine. That and maybe systems electronics. I can see a time down the road here where instead of having, instead of General Motors, say, buying their own ADAS system, they'll buy it off of Apple, or they'll buy it off of Android or whomever, because the amount of research and development, and even just the access to the chips and whatnot. I mean, we still have people talking about inputs and outputs. that's been dead since the 80s. I mean, really? Are you kidding me? That problem is rampant inside of the legacy manufacturers. They don't really understand, like this thing here. We've taken these things to pieces. We know exactly how they work. This is really something. This, I could run the whole damn car on this. I don't need anything else, and it's plenty reliable. Car companies don't quite get that. In fact, we're talking to one right now where they said, well, we want this, we want that, and they're looking at a box that's maybe, I don't know, about 18 inches by a foot by maybe a couple of inches thick. And we're sitting there nodding our heads. Oh, yeah. Okay, good. How about if it was like that size? What? Well, everything you asked for, we can put on a NVIDIA chip, and we don't need that, all those other boxes and wires and stuff. I mean, it's all there. Well, wait a minute. What about the inputs and outputs? Yeah. This is too... No, we're not going to talk about that right now because I haven't got time, and I don't think you got the depth. And that's kind of like what it's going to boil down to. And so the progress that's been made with cell phone technology and basically the thing that we're talking on is Lenovo laptops and whatnot, these things, they can do an awful lot more than what people think. This has got lots of technology in it that could turn into running the car. And by the way, you can make a whole lot more money selling electronics than you can selling a great big giant vehicle. And there's a whole lot less litigation and whatnot associated with them. So
makes sense. A Tesla van, like, there's a Mercedes Sprinter market that's pretty big. These vans are used in deliveries all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, do you think Tesla can make a van? Do you think it will be like a stellar van? Is there anything holding them back?
I've never, I'm not on their board or anything. I'm just making guesses, but there's nothing holding them back. That's for sure. Just like there's nothing holding Rivian back, and they're going to be showing up with vans. I think probably what they need to do is just look at where's the money. Vans don't make as much money as a Cybertruck will. If you want to get into something where it's high volume and low profit, yeah, you could get into it. But personally, I think there's going to be a real run for electric vans. But see, if you get into that business, you have to know one thing. Well, when is that fleet going to be revamped, right? Well, what goes bad on an electric van? Brakes, maybe ball joints. Nothing else. How long is that van going to be around for? 1 million miles. Why do I want to get into that business? I mean, there's no return business. Why would I? I mean, like I say, it's going to be really busy for 3 or 4 years. And then what? I mean, there'll be a couple of crashed vans. I'm sure one will go off the road or what have you, or maybe somebody plows into it and the van's off. But I mean, after the first sales, they hang around forever. In fact, I just got sent something here a bit ago. I'm not sure whether it's an article or what have you, but anyways, it says that this is from one of the bigger EV magazines, that the Tesla 4680 battery pack is good for life. Life? Is that 40 years or 90 years? How much is that? They're coming up. I haven't read the whole article. I read the first bit, and it sounds like, hey, you know what? Maybe that's true. Maybe the degradation is not there anymore. And then you've got other guys like Bill Gruber. I don't have his little thing in front of me, and he's fixing old Teslas. Bill's got this thing down in Texas where you drive your Tesla in, and for anywhere from $2,000 to $5,000, boom, you got your battery pack back again, something from, I think, 60% to 85, 90%. I mean, if you go to Tesla, it's $22,000. They pull out your old battery, put in a new one. That can get kind of stiff after a while. So if Bill can make that happen, I'll bet you that somebody else can as well. So I see businesses where the van they buy today will be inherited by the great grandchildren of the guy that bought that van. I see them hanging around for a long time. So I don't know whether I'd want to get into that business.
Interesting. Model 2, or not Model 2, so the $25,000 Tesla. So we have hints that, there's going to be a China designed, $25,000 car, but also hints that there could be a European designed, $25,000 car. Like, do you think that's necessary to have like two separate versions? But also in the future, do you think Model 2 will be a platform? Will there be several different types of cars on that platform?
Usually when you design a platform, you design it for several different kinds of cars. The Model 3 was the platform for the Model Y, and now the Model Y is the platform for the Model 3. So that's the kind of improvements that you're hoping to make. So I believe that if Tesla was going to make a last mile delivery system or a pickup truck, it would be on that little tiny platform. And the reason that I'm thinking that is because I could use that as I could make a pickup truck, a 2-seat pickup truck, or I could make, a 2-seater little car to go here and there and whatnot. And when you drop the weight down to a certain point, then they're not auto cycles like a 3-wheel vehicle, which really don't have much regulation at all. These have got some regulation, but because they're a lower speed and a lighter vehicle, they fall into a different class. So you could probably make that work without any problems with a Model 2 or whatever they're going to call it. I think that as far as the first part of your question on, whether it should be designed in China or designed in Germany, if it's designed in Germany, it'll have too many fasteners and it'll weigh too much. If it's designed in China, it'll definitely cost less, but you'll have to probably make improvements when it gets to the U.S. because they have a tendency to under-design and the Germans over-design. That's kind of like what I would say.
Mm-hmm. Got it. Have you thought about, like, for example, with robotaxi, let's say they're doing autonomous deliveries of groceries or your packages or food. How does last foot delivery work out, you think, in the future? I mean, how do you get from the robotaxi or delivery car or van to the person's porch? Have you thought about that? Do you have any ideas or insights?
I've thought about it a lot. For last mile delivery, if I was Tesla, I would not waste my time on a van. I would be into VTOLs, vertical takeoff and landing machines. I'd have no clue why anyone would waste their time on a van when I could have vertical machines dropping these packages off on people's front door or back porch. That's a better idea. I don't like the front door thing. I don't order anything ever. I'm not a fan. Leave it on the front porch, and then you look on TV. I don't watch much of that either, but it seems like every time you turn around, there's some clown running over, grabbing somebody's packages off the porch and running away, going, ha ha ha. Why doesn't it go to the backyard? I can do that with a VTOL. I can drop it in the backyard. I don't need to go into the backyard, especially if they've got a wolf or some damn huge dog or something in their backyard. Nobody's going to steal that. They won't even try. So for me, having a pizza delivered by vertical takeoff works for me. It's going to show up hot, and that's for sure, because there's no traffic lights. There's no nothing. I think that if we don't move in that direction, or if we move in that direction, there's going to be a lot of unlucky folks making last mile delivery vehicles.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I guess we're talking about drones, right? I mean, that will deliver packages, or is it a little bit different when you talk about VTOLs?
Drone, to me, when somebody talks about, I worked on drones. So to me, a drone is is a military device, and it delivers something. But the only unhappy customer would be one that lived. Okay, so that's kind of difference for me. A drone that takes pictures and whatnot. In the business we call those gnats. Okay, they're little annoyance things. But a VTOL, vertical takeoff and landing, that's something where I can deliver something that's of some size, and I can ensure its delivery, and and they can be a variety of different sizes. A drone to me is a gnat. It's something that's small and annoying. VTOL is going to be for transporting people, transporting goods and services. I mean, that's kind of like what I see in the future. And by the way, for those folks that don't know this, people pay me a tremendous amount of money for saying that kind of stuff, and then they go and invest in a good direction. So, but that's what I see as the next level of transportation and delivery.
Okay, so VTOL, like, what about the sound pollution? I mean, like, for example, I hear this crazy VTOL like coming down my next door neighbor, and I just like flip out because it's like so loud.
You give me that.
Are there ways where companies are
the
insulating the sound, or to make it where there isn't much sound pollution?
Yeah, I'm going to show you one.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so you're going to have to pick that whole thing up. So be prepared. Okay, so have a look at this. See that?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. That doesn't make any noise.
Really?
So now take it away,
Wow.
because somebody will be copying it. Okay, so actually that one makes some noise. That's a bypass fan. Can you give me the one that's colorful there? That's the plastic one. That one makes some noise. This one makes no noise. This is ours. We designed this. And the technology that we put in there to make no noise, that was because, can you give me the pink airplane over there? Yeah. I didn't realize we were going to get down this path, but so anyway, this is our airplane. We designed this. See? It's got this fan in it. Looks like that one you just saw, okay? We designed this for a personal air vehicle. Tragically, it worked, and you don't have to tell. All you do is say, I want to go to Chicago, and it'll ask which airport, and then you land. You can't go into the major airports, but there's tens of thousands of small airports around that this thing would land at. We tried it out, made it work. It's a piece of cake to do something on an airplane or a VTOL because I don't have separation. Like the separation, if you have full self-driving, the separation is basically from your door, your passenger door, to the driver's door, car next to you, going down an expressway. How much is that? 4 feet. With an airplane or a VTOL, I got 1,000 feet of separation. Right? Easy. It's a piece of cake to do that. It's tough when you start fooling around with a car. So the guys that are making the cars right now and they're getting into self-driving, they're the guys that are going to be bringing up. They're going to be in the right position to do VTOLs. And as far as noise is concerned, there's ways of getting rid of that noise, and you can dampen it down. What you're hearing are they're gnats, cheap whatevers, vertical takeoff type of products, but they're not drones, and they're not VTOLs.
This is fascinating stuff. I mean, it's the future of where everything is headed, I think, with transport, delivery, logistics.
Yeah.
Awesome. Sandy, I want to thank you for your time. It's been fantastically informative and thought-provoking. I appreciate all that you're doing for folks online and just sharing your wisdom and knowledge. I'll go ahead and link to your YouTube channel and your website. Is there anything else of how people can kind of follow you and keep informed?
We're in the process of rewriting the Munro website, which is actually leandesign.com. And if they want to inquire, like say there was somebody that was looking for help on a product that they want redesigned or whatever, then you can go to sales@leandesign.com, and that'll put you in touch with our sales guys, and then they can talk to you about whatever kind of project you want. And we worked on everything from Barbie to the space station, so there's very little that we can't do. And then some people, especially in the finance world, have been looking for things that they want deeper dives on certain areas, and we do that as well. Again, that's also on sales@leandesign.com, and they can interface with one of the people there, and we unfortunately we charge for that. So, yeah, Mike or one of the other people will help you out.
Awesome.
So yeah. So anyway, but I'd like to thank you, David. Thank you for the opportunity to come on your show, and if you get any hate mail, don't pass it along.
All right, man. Thanks, and yeah, I hope to do this again in the future. All right.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. We'll see you, Sandy.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Thanks.
Yep.